Hello and welcome to the information session on SGS 902, Teaching and Learning in Higher Education. This is a winter course that is going to be offered in 2021, and this information session is really intended to give you a sense as to what the course is all about. My name is Dr. Lauren Anstey. I am the instructor for the course this winter term. I identify as a cisgender settler Canadian. My pronouns are she and her. And my background in a disciplinary sense is in the anatomical sciences, in curriculum studies, and my dissertation was on authentic and inquiry learning. I have held roles in educational development for about 10 years at this time, and specific to curriculum and e-learning. I wanted to begin by acknowledging that Queen's University and the place from which I join you today is located on the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples. In a 2016 blog post, Cheryl Vowell, who's a Métis writer and educator, argued that land acknowledgements be a site of potential disruption, that they ought to leave us thinking in new ways. And for non-Indigenous folks like myself, she challenged this as maybe it's now it's the time to start learning about your obligations as a guest in this territory. And in 902, we engage in that task very actively, specifically in context of higher education and as our obligations as educators to engage in decolonization. And so I open today's session with that recognition. Today is just a brief introduction to 902, and this is an agenda of the types of points or topics I will be quickly covering in about 15 minutes within this video. My intention is to give you the information that you need to decide whether this is something that's going to fit and work with you into the winter term. Of course, there will be full course introductions and details provided to students as we kick off the course. And there is lots of information which we will share accompanying this video that you can access and review in learning more. So 902 is a grad level course focused on teaching and learning in higher education. It is taken by graduate students and postdoctoral fellows across campus, and so it is an interdisciplinary cohort of people who have an interest in teaching and learning in general and want to develop their skill set around teaching. The course treats teaching as a skill that can be challenged and broadened through considering practical, theoretical, and disciplinary dimensions, and we draw very much on the scholarly literature to explore conceptions of teaching and learning, and then apply that so that we're practicing and discussing and talking about the very lived act of teaching. We tend to focus on active and learner-centered approaches to instruction and assessment and making sense of that not only within our disciplines, but also within the broader context of some of the most pressing or urgent matters in teaching and learning today. And so here's a rundown of some of the topics. We start with some of the foundations, guiding principles of teaching and learning, what it means to engage in scholarly teaching, course design, and then teaching, the pedagogies, and the assessment of teaching and of learning. But then, as I mentioned, we also get into some of those very important topics that are shaping and influencing institutions and educators today. So equity, diversity, inclusion, and indigenization, or EDII, anti-racism, teaching online and with technologies. And towards the very end of the course, we do consider the university of the future and what that looks like, what we predict that might be like, and how we best respond to some of that changing landscape. There are 5 major assignments that comprise the course. There is a teaching philosophy statement, and so we develop this statement, which is an articulation of your personalized beliefs on teaching, your approaches that you aspire to take within the classroom, and your values. And we develop this through a series of peer and instructor feedback. There is the assignment to annotate a syllabus, so the opportunity to review and critique a syllabus that relates to teaching within your discipline. So maybe a course that you're currently teaching or plan to teach in the future. The Teaching Dilemma assignment is a group assignment where groups will select and work through a dilemma, so a challenge in teaching and learning that has no clear solutions or strategies in offering tangible and specific ways forward, but rather ones that can be explored through the course topics and understood and inquired into in a deeper sense. And finally, there is the practical component. So there's 2 assignments related to this: a micro-teaching component, which is a 10-minute teaching session to your peers with feedback built in, and a practicum component. There's usually lots of questions about this practicum, so I will say the expectation is that you arrange an opportunity to be teaching, often in an undergraduate context, and that you will have this opportunity to teach, but that you will also observe your peers. And we create a sign-up sheet so that we can make those arrangements. However, there's, just noting some of the changes and the flexibility that is best needed for this time for the winter 2021 term. There's lots of opportunity to be designing something that's going to work for you. So possibly a guest lecture, a teaching opportunity that you might seek out by connecting with your supervisor or with some of your colleagues. And even still outside of that, if that's not a possibility, accommodations can be arranged. So I do invite you to, if that doesn't immediately sound like something that works out for you, to still be in touch, to register for the course, and we will make the arrangements that are necessary for you to be practicing and engaging your teaching. So if you haven't already got the sense, we are headed into a remote structure of delivery for 902 this year. It has previously been a face-to-face course, but we will be offering it fully remote this year. And this gives you a sense, this slide, in terms of the week in a life of an SGS 902 student. So there are some readings and some online activities to do ahead of the synchronous session. We will be making use of the timetabled class time, which are Tuesdays between 1:30 and 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We won't be using all 3 hours every week, but rather somewhere between the 1 and 3 hours of class time. And this is to, protect that really important time to come together and engage with one another for practice and discussion. And then finally, there will be work that follows that in terms of assignment completion and independent or group work that follows some of that weekly engagement. And that can range in the time needed for those components. SGS 902 is a pass-fail course, and so we often get questions as to what constitutes a pass. Well, really it comes down to regularly attending the synchronous sessions and engaging in those times. That is the designated class time. But then there's also the need to successfully complete course assignments. There are a lot of details, very specific details in the course syllabus that clarify what successful completion looks like on each of those assignments that I had mentioned. But in general, what I can say is there's an expectation of timely completion and submission of the work, to regularly engage in assignment-related tasks. So for example, a peer review task that might help one of the activities and assignments move along. And finally, at times, not for all of the assignments, but for some, there is instructor evaluation of the quality of your work. And at that point, there are rubrics that are made available to make it clear what the expectations are and how I can support you in achieving that pass threshold of 70%. Overall, I would say that I find the nature of this course, being that it's a grad course and oftentimes an elective, that students have just a strong desire to engage with one another in teaching and learning. And when we focus on that engagement and the creation of community focused on collaboration, participation, and communication, the pass comes naturally because we're working on assignments and tasks that contribute to your overall success in the course. And that's my hope in the expectation I hold of students, that they come prepared to engage and participate in class, and also that they will voice their ideas and input to me as the instructor. For me, teaching this course also brings up a lot of very intrinsic motivation to engage in my own teaching philosophy statement, and so I take my commitments to you, the students, very seriously. And if I could summarize, what you might be seeing here on the slide, it's really to say that my commitment to you is to facilitate a course that prioritizes your learning and especially right now, your well-being as a student. So, I strive to communicate effectively within that and to make judicial use of technologies to support your learning and work with you as a partner or as a colleague, as an emerging colleague who is engaging in this topic. What follows now is a series of slides that sort of address this I'm sure a major question that exists for you is what's the schedule and what can I expect in terms of workload so I can make sure that this works with my life. Here's a look at the weekly breakdown, not only of topics to be covered, but that Tuesday session and the length of time we will be spending together in the synchronous space through technology, through Zoom. Through a Zoom class. Again, I'll draw your attention to the fact that we're not always making use of the full 3 hours. I didn't want to make use of time that we did not require in order to engage with one another in this synchronous sense. I will also draw your attention to the fact that we recognize Reading Week and do not schedule course activities for that week of February 15th. This slide should give you an overall sense as to the major assignments and what the spread of the workload is like across those assignments. So the teaching philosophy statement, the work is more or less in the earlier parts of the course. The teaching dilemma is an assignment that gets spread out through the course, the length of the course itself. Then the annotated syllabus and the micro-teaching components are tied to specific weeks in the course, and so it's really only that part in March where we spend our time there. And finally, the teaching practicum is an element that has flexibility in terms of what's going to work for you in conducting that teaching component and in observing other people in their own teaching as well. And that culminates in a self-reflection that's due by the end of the term. This slide is a chart that is available in the syllabus itself, so feel free to refer back to it as needed. What you're seeing here is each of the weeks of the course and the estimated number of hours in terms of your effort and what you might be doing in the course each week. It's my estimate of your time, and so there will be some times where this varies. But overall, you can see here that there's an average of about 7 hours of coursework each week, but that varies with some weeks being less than that and some weeks being more, just based on the rhythm. But this does account for everything. The dark blue bar at the top is representative of that synchronous session in the synchronous time. The pink bar, next one down, is the readings and online activities in terms of that prep work. And then the other bars there span the assignment tasks and tries to account as much or as best as possible the types of commitments required for those assignments and how it's spread out across the term. So I really hope that this gives you the information you need to make that decision as to whether or not this fits. And I really do hope to see you as a student in the course. It's an excellent course. I love teaching it, and I love getting to know the students in the course and fostering their learning around teaching and learning in higher education. If you are ready to register, it depends on whether you're the graduate student or postdoc position. So graduate students can complete the academic change form that's available on the CTL website and email it to ctl@queensu.ca for instructor approval. Postdocs, you can send your information to, again, the same address, ctl@queensu.ca. There's lots of additional information available. If you do not have a chance to get those links to you associated with this video, then I will verbalize the opportunity to check out the liquid syllabus. So a syllabus that has been mounted on the web so that it's a little bit more accessible and easy for you to access. And you can access it here through this bit.ly link. the capitalization does matter. So it's capital SGS 902 and then lowercase liquid syllabus to get information such as today's slides, to review some of the course information that's available there, and to access the official course syllabus where, as I mentioned, you'll see some of the very specific, what you might expect out of a course syllabus in terms of its very detailed information on the course. If we had been able to connect synchronously together, I would have loved to hear from you and to hear what sort of questions might be outstanding. Of course, please feel free to connect with me beyond this video. You can email ctl@queensu.ca with any of your questions. And again, my name is Dr. Lauren Anstey. Feel free to connect with me individually as well.